Hey y'all, and welcome back. I'm Ashley, and thank you for joining me for the first episode of Sunday Book Review. I got this idea from setting up this area actually when I was recording my Clean and Decorate for Easter and Spring with me. I set up this area with the blanket and the flowers, and I just really loved it. So I started reading books here, and from that, it gave me the idea that I wanted to kind of call this my little book nook, even though I don't have my bookshelf here anymore. But I also wanted to dive a little bit deeper into books after recording my March TBR, where I really talked about a lot of books that I wanted to read this month. Sorry, my dog. I talked a lot about books that I wanted to read this month, but it gave me the idea that I wanted to dive a little deeper into books and not just tell you what I was planning on reading, but tell you like what I thought of the book. So kind of following up on my TBR and sharing what I want to read. So Sundays I'm going to try to reserve for book talk and Sunday book reviews, but I might also throw in some TBRs at the beginning of the month as well. We'll just see how it goes. So be looking for this, and thank you for joining me for the first episode. So starting off, I first read this month the Cottage by the Sea by Debbie Macomber, and this is a book that is loosely based off of a tragic real-life event in 2014 in Oso, Washington, and I think I'm saying that right. I could be wrong. I'm mispronouncing stuff all the time. So they had a tragic landslide in this town in Washington, and that tragedy is kind of what sparked the idea behind this book. So we have our main character, Annie, who loses her entire family on Thanksgiving morning in a landslide in Washington, and we follow her as she kind of picks up the pieces of her life and moves on, or tries to move on, but she's really struggling, and she gets the advice to go to a place that made her happy. And so for her, that is a little seaside town where her family used to visit each year when they were kids. They would take a vacation there, and so to her, that is a place that really made her happy, and so she wants to go back there. And everything works out where she is able to move there, and actually with a little bit of help is able to move into the cottage that her family stayed in when she was a child. And she makes new friends in this town with a little bit of work and eventually falls in love. So this is a romance, and it is a overall very sweet book. I would say it's almost like a Hallmark movie in a book. It is just a sweet but, slightly sad circumstanced book. But overall, it goes okay in the end. I really like the romance. I love Debbie's romances. They are just very sweet without making you blush while you're reading them. So I really enjoy that about her books. Other than that, I would say this is definitely a good palate cleanser book. I know a lot of people don't really enjoy Debbie's books because they are very predictable after you read a few of them. So I typically try not to read them back to back. I will read this as a palate cleanser. So if I am reading two books that really make me think a lot, or I just need something to kind of break up a genre that I've been reading, I will read one of Debbie's books. I enjoy all of them, but like I said, I can't read them back to back because they do become kind of predictable. So with that being said, I loved this book and I gave it 4 stars. The second book that I read in March is The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. And this is one that is definitely one that makes you think. I was very surprised by it, and definitely in a good way. So it follows a few different families and how those families eventually become connected through events in the past and in the present, and just It's a little hard to describe only because I don't want to give away the plotline. So let's just leave it at that. These families eventually become intertwined, and it's a really good read. So I first of all loved that in the beginning you're meeting all of these characters and you don't know how they're related. And that's kind of part of the intriguing part. It was a little bit hard to get into, I think, but looking back on it, that's kind of the mystery and the intrigue and why I liked it. Because as I started to figure out how they related, it got very interesting and I couldn't flip the pages fast enough. I couldn't read fast enough. So that was definitely a very big bonus in how it was written. I enjoyed that a lot. And the second part is that it really helps to put into perspective what is really important in life at this current time. You know, you might be stressing because you didn't clean the house, or, you know, some event is going on in your life that is very stressful to you. But in the bigger picture, compared to what's going on in other people's lives, it might not be that much at all. So I really liked how this book kind of made you, one, feel very normal, because, you know, your life might not be as crazy as these characters' lives. And number two, it helps put in perspective different things, you know, events that are going on. I know personally I stress out a lot about presenting at work, which is crazy, but yeah, so I stress about that. And you know, if I really stop and think about it, it's not that big of a deal. You know, I just need to stop and put it in perspective. So this book I really liked about that. And then the third thing is at the very end, you get to figure out, as these characters' lives, you know, intertwine, different paths that their lives could have gone down depending on the decisions that they made. And I really like that. I really like the idea that, like, you know, you could have gone down a different path and this would be like the path that you would have gone down, and the events that would have transpired had you have chosen that path versus the one that you actually went on. I really enjoyed that about this book as well. And it's just really fun to read about different cultures. This takes place in Australia, and I love that you get to have a little bit of a glimpse into the Australian culture. It takes place around Easter, which is cool because we are getting ready to have Easter now. And yeah, so I just really enjoyed this one. I also gave this book a 4 stars. So if you have read either of the books that I am talking about today, I would love to hear your opinion and what you thought of them, what you rated them. Or if you have not read either of these books, let me know if you are interested, because I love to kind of get an idea of what you enjoy reading and just share my opinion of what I enjoy as well. And if you have any recommendations, please leave those in the comments below as well. I, you know, have a huge to be read list, and so if I can narrow it down to what books I want to read next, that is a huge help, but I always love to be adding books to my collection. So thank you for joining me for our first episode of Sunday Book Review, and I hope you have a great week. Bye, guys.